Father Ted creator turned staunch defender of women's rights, Graham Linehan, said he is taking legal action after being suddenly cancelled by a venue at the Edinburgh Fringe. So yesterday, as I mentioned in my digest at the top of the show, the Leith Archers said in a statement, "We do not support this comedian or his views. We are an inclusive venue and will not allow such views to violate our space." Here's how Linehan responded, speaking to Patrick Christus earlier.
Have done it without defaming me on their Instagram post as a bigot, which is the first thing these people always do. So, you know, unfortunately, we are beginning legal proceedings.
The promoter of the show is our very own Andrew Doyle, who has announced they have found a new venue for Linehan and co to perform. But Andrew Doyle, this is a shocking situation. I think it shows that free speech in Britain is dead. And one thing that really, really surprised me is that you are not actually able to announce the venue now until the very last minute. I mean, this is like McCarthy-era stuff.
Well, it's just that the activists tend to be quite hostile creatures, you know. They can be so ferocious. And so we just want the people who've bought tickets to have a great night. We advertised the gig, we sold the gig out, and then all of this kicked off. And so we've now found another venue that's just around the corner from the venue where it's meant to be. So everyone, we can just transfer the tickets over. So what we'll do is...
Yeah, but you're worried that if you announce this publicly, number one, they would try some sort of campaign against the venue, but presumably they might also try to physically barricade themselves or something like that.
It wouldn't work because the venue we found, the management are completely on board.
OK.
And the reason they've taken this is they believe in the principle of free speech. So that's really good. We'll just email people the address and they'll turn up and the activists can go and do something else. I mean, why do they care?
But this is an extraordinarily worrying thing. I mean, we saw Joanna Cherry initially cancelled from the Fringe as well. It's all because these people believe that biological sex matters. I mean, that's something that, Andrew, everyone on the left a few years ago agreed with. Yeah,
it's something that 99% of the country agree with. It's particularly troubling what happened to Joanna Cherry because that was at the Stand Comedy Club where her appearance was meant to be. That's a club that I've worked with many, many times. I did many of my solo Edinburgh shows at the Stand. The whole ethos there was always free speech. And what's happening is certain members of the management, I suppose, are getting nervous about staff members who are saying, I'm not going to work if this person's there with a different opinion. So I think it's really reflective on a problem in society more broadly, that there's a certain type of young person who feels that that their opinion cannot be challenged because they've been told that if you're challenged, your emotional safety is at risk. And so inevitably, when they get old enough to get jobs, that will filter out into that world.
And we're now seeing that happening. And I think what's so shocking, Andrew, is that Graham Linehan was a prized member of the London Liberal Media League. I mean, this is the bloke who was one of the biggest stars behind the scenes of Channel 4. You know, Father Ted, the IT Crowd, Black Books. This is not someone who actually is conservative in a small C or big C way.
No.
But because of one particular view, a bit like J.K. Rowling, he has now been ostracised, ostracised socially, ostracised financially.
He comes from the left. I mean, he was even a bit of an activist from a left-wing perspective. I had spats with him back on the day online because we disagreed on various things. So he knows that world, but he also now recognises that world is very insular. And he said he's a bit embarrassed by some of the things he said back in the day, because now he's realised this one point of view, having a different opinion that slightly deviates from what the activists say, and you are cancelled. And he really has been cancelled. I know people say cancel culture does not exist. You've just listed three very key sitcoms in our recent history, and this man can't get work within the comedy industry. He's got his musical of Father Ted, which is being held hostage by Hat Trick Productions, who own the rights. They're saying they're not going to put it on, and Graham says it's because a member of the staff there is an activist, and they've capitulated to him. So,
and Andrew Doyle, we have both been here at GB News since day one, and one of the reasons that we joined GB News is because we were acutely aware of the threat to free speech. And in fact, your show that has been on the channel since day one, on Sunday nights, Free Speech Nation, is all about that. It feels like the rest of the population are catching up. This really fascinating major poll commissioned by GB News, let's be honest about it, but undertaken by one of the country's top polling agencies showed just 14% of the population disagreeing with the statement that free speech in the United Kingdom is in decline.
Right.
So this is a battle of our lifetime, isn't it?
Well, it absolutely is, and that's why I wanted to focus on free speech in the show. I think a lot of people have been playing catch-up because, well, to be honest, they haven't been informed of what's going on. You know, I mean, I cover the issues of gender identity a lot on the show, and I have done since the start, because nobody else was. I mean, now you're getting the odd interview here and there on other channels, but they really weren't for a long, long time.
And so you would have thought Graham Linehan was the devil incarnate,
right, exactly.
if you just looked at social media.
But that's because that's all they do. So they look and they see, oh, he's people calling him a bigot, calling him far right, all this stuff. So they just dismiss him. But actually, when you understand the issues, when you understand what he's actually standing up for, women's rights, gay rights, this kind of thing. I interviewed a woman on my show last weekend, a lesbian who'd organised a speed dating event for lesbians at a pub in London. And because she said no men are allowed, she's had it cancelled, right? Because no, that's clearly a problem. And it's not. It was a man who identifies as a woman demanding to come in to a lesbian speed dating event. Everyone knows this is ridiculous. Everyone knows it's absurd. And Graham Linehan has been on the right side of this debate. Everything he said about the medicalisation of gender non-conforming youth, kids who are likely to grow up gay, or kids who are autistic, who think they're in the wrong body, being affirmed in that, put onto a pathway to medicalisation and eventually sterilisation. Of course he's been right about that, and he's vindicated.
And the Tavistock Clinic.
Yeah.
Remember, that's what the BBC hated him so much for, because he spoke out against Tavistock Clinic, which has now been shut down by the government because its practices were so disgusting. But look, you're going to keep on with your
we're doing the show.
Unleashed.
We're doing the show tomorrow. It's just not going to be in the venue it was originally.
OK, well, look, I hope it goes really well.
Thank you very much.